Our ship was coming into dock in Nesebur, Bulgaria. It dates back to the 16th to 17th centuries, and 250,000 live here. Our 6-hour optional tour was to have a glimpse into life in a Bulgarian village. Next, we were on our way to another home. We were greeted by a bagpiper and hostess giving us a bit of bread. The garden was our first visit. Then their private chapel. Our hostess accompanied us to lunch of traditional Bulgarian dishes and watch folklore dancers. Our group walked up the street to another home. They sold homemade crafts outside. We were invited into their home. They made and sold lemon drinks. The local hostess demonstrated the rattling mechanism of the wool carving machine, an age-old tool much in demand by local shepherd families. We were on our way back to our ship. This morning we docked in Istanbul, Turkey. It is the world's only metropolis that is spread over 2 continents. Our 9.5-hour tour of Istanbul started at Topkapi Palace from the 6th century. Our local guide took us on our walking tour.
In front of you, Hagia Irini was built as church in the 6th century, same period with Hagia Sophia. And Hagia Sophia was converted into mosque after the conquest, but Hagia Irini wasn't changed, wasn't touched, and wasn't used as church either. So it was kept empty for centuries and centuries. At some period they used it as exhibition hall, but nothing was touched, nothing was changed, nothing was converted. And today, because it keeps all its originality and atmosphere just like 6th century, even the altar remained as it was. Today they use for musical concerts.
Plane trees were along the walkway to the entrance. We walked through the imperial gate into the courtyard. The sultans lived here for 400 years. The audience chamber was past. Then the Church of Saint Irene. The Gate of Salutation, built 1520 to 1566, leads into the palace proper. This is the ceiling decoration of the Gate of Salutation. This is the Tower of Justice. Dating from the 5th or 6th century, These numerous Byzantine cisterns were used by the Ottomans. The Gate of Felicity served as the entrance to the private residence of the Sultan. The impressive domed chamber was seen. The Basilica of Saint Sophia, started in 532, took 5 years to complete. It is one of the 8 wonders of the world. In the 6th century, it was used as a temple for nearly 1,000 years, then a mosque for 400 years, and now a museum. The inner dome rises to the height of 150 feet. It was the first building with a dome. Frescoes and mosaics adorn its antique interior. The impressive fountain was in the inner courtyard. We were on our way to lunch in the old city. Across the street, since it was Friday, men were praying on the sidewalk. Back on the coach, we were on our way to a carpet shop. This gentleman told us about his store, the history of carpet making, and showed us what he had for sale. It was an interesting walk through the streets. The Grand Bazaar is where handcrafts from throughout Turkey are displayed in 5,000 shops. Within the maze of lanes and alleys were jewelry, brass, copper, and incense. The Blue Mosque was visited next. It is the only mosque with 6 minarets. There are 16 balconies on the 6 minarets. The inner courtyard had a fountain. A local man washed his feet before entering. The name Blue Mosque comes from the intricately tiled interior. There are 21,403 blue-colored tiles on the walls. People only pray here on Friday. Our group was on its way to dinner. It was an evening of traditional Turkish cuisine and entertainment at one of Istanbul's favorite nightclubs. Turkish musicians, belly dancers, and folk dancers perform dances from different regions of Turkey. It is one of the oldest social dances in world history. We left the nightclub to go to our ship. The day was spent at sea. Our ship was going through the Dardanelles, the narrow strait connecting the Aegean Sea to the Sea of Marmara. Our ship was approaching Mykonos, Greece, in the Aegean Sea. The pedestrian-only central Mykonos town was a charming place. It was an ancient fortified city. The corkscrew streets helped foil would-be attackers. The stamp over the door showed that it was the post office. You walk through narrow streets, past whitewashed houses and blue-domed churches, bougainvillea-covered walls, and walk along step-laden footpaths leading everywhere. We looked into one of the churches. Homeowners had private chapels. The windmills were for grinding flour from barley and wheat to make bread. Houses at the edge of the sea were owned by fishermen. They took their booty right into the basement. It was the end of a delightful day in Mykonos. The coach was on its way to Kalafati for a short walk along the beach. We continued on to Ano Mera. The pipe above the door was so monks could pour hot oil on pirates who were trying to enter. The monastery of Panagia Turliani was dedicated to the protector of Mykonos. The building was from the 18th century. Inside the chapel, you could see various icons depicting scenes from the New Testament. We were on our way back to the ship. This morning we leave our home on our ship and are on our way to Cape Sunion. We stopped to see the temple of Poseidon from 450 BC. Poseidon is the god of water. Our lunch stop will be next. This fishing port had lots of photo opportunities. It was a surprise to see a gravestone near the port. We were on our way along the coast to Cape Sunion to our deluxe seaside resort on the Aegean Sea for 2 nights. The hotel was seen in the distance. The pomegranate tree was near the entrance. It was a short walk to our resort unit. These are the remains of a 3rd century BC village inhabited by mine workers. The next morning we took an optional full-day excursion into Athens. This path took us to the Acropolis. The Acropolis means the highest spot in the city. No building can be higher. The sacred rock of the Acropolis was for many centuries the most important religious center of the city of Athens. The monumental entrance to the sanctuary of the Acropolis was constructed 437 to 432 BC. The temple has 8 columns on the ends and 17 on the sides. All the upper parts of the temple were decorated. Parthenon means the place of the Virgin. It took 9 years to build. The Erechtheion was built about 420 BC. The roof is supported by 6 figures of maidens. The authentic members of the iconic frieze have been moved to the museum and are replaced with copies in artificial stone. Our next stop was the Olympic Stadium, built 2nd century AD. The total capacity was 60,000 persons. The first Olympics were held here. Our coach was taking us to the new Acropolis Museum. The museum opened in 2007. 80% of it is made of glass. There were 4 levels in the museum. This original female statue is from 6th century BC. These figures are depictions of the scenes under the gables at each end of the Parthenon. We saw Hadrian's Arch. It was time to fly to Frankfurt, then home from our fascinating 18-day trip.